The moon hung low over the industrial district, a pale sentinel shedding slivers of silver light across rows of shuttered warehouses. In the stillness, only the hum of distant traffic and the occasional rumble of a delivery truck punctuated the night. Yet behind the corrugated metal walls of Warehouse 47, a far more unlikely alarm was stirring. At precisely 1:17 a.m., a solitary raccoon slipped through a gap in the chain-link fence, its masked face lit by the glow of a nearby sodium lamp. Claws clicking on concrete, it padded toward the dock doors of the warehouse. Years of careful scavenging had taught this raccoon the art of stealth. It pressed close to shadowed crates, ears twitching, nostrils flaring at the scent of cardboard, spilled grain, and the faintest trace of diesel. Inside the warehouse's cavernous hold, pallets of packaged goods stretched into darkness. A single skylight overhead yawned open, moonlight streaming through its grimy pane. The raccoon's beady eyes adjusted instantly. It climbed a stack of plastic-wrapped cartons, cresting the pallet like a conquering general. From above, it spotted an unlatched shipping crate, its steel latch creaking under a curious paw. With an agile twist, the raccoon flipped the latch free. The heavy lid groaned upward, revealing a trove of compressed paper rolls. The animal dove in, burrowing past plastic wrap into cartons marked flammable packaging, store in cool, dry place. A whisper of rustling paper echoed through the cavern. The raccoon's voracious snuffling became a crescendo of tearing cardboard and scattering styrofoam peanuts. Its claws scraped metal rails, sending a shower of sparks as the crate shifted on its rollers, grinding against the concrete floor. Sparks sprayed like minuscule fireworks, each tiny flash unnoticed under the moonlit gloom. Outside, Fire Captain Elena Ramirez sat at home reviewing incident reports over lukewarm coffee, the glow of her laptop haloing her determined face. Her pager, stowed on the nightstand, lay silent, until a shrill chirp in the still air jolted her. Station 22, she read aloud, voice steady. Possible fire, First and Maple, Warehouse 47. Within seconds, she and her crew burst into action. Turnout gear, SCBAs, trucks rumbling off the pad, lights strobing red and blue through the empty streets. The hour was late, but Lakeview's volunteer firefighters knew to treat any warehouse alarm as high priority, where a small spark could morph into an inferno, engulfing millions of dollars worth of goods. Moments later, Engine 4 and Ladder 7 rolled up to a silent scene. No glow, no smoke, just the eerie silhouette of Warehouse 47 under the moon. The building's silent facade betrayed no hint of flame. Elena frowned. "Walk through," she ordered into her radio. "Check all exits, main floor. Be ready if it's a false alarm." Firefighter Marcus Chen eased open the heavy rolling door at the loading dock. The fire poles whistled as he slid down, boots clunking on metal. Engine lights swept the cavern, illuminating pallets and crates like ghostly monuments. Inside, nothing burned at first. But then, behind a stack of cardboard spools, he saw them. Tiny embers flickering along the edge of a crate, igniting spilled cardboard fragments. "Captain, we've got a hot spot," Marcus called, voice echoing. He stepped closer, inhaling the smell of smoldering paper. The sparks had ignited stray peanuts and torn packaging, fueling a slow, creeping fire that threatened to spread along the flammable cargo. Elena was on the scene in seconds. She knelt by the smoldering debris, pistol grip nozzle in hand. "Quick attack," she ordered. "We'll contain it before it grows." Water spray hissed as it met the embers, foam forming to blanket the fuel. Outside, the raccoon emerged from its cardboard lair, fur singed and eyes wild. It scurried backward, whiskers singed by smoke, and fled through the gap in the fence. Behind it, the warehouse interior glowed with wet steam and a faint haze, its nocturnal rummaging replaced by the hiss of hoses and the bark of radio traffic. Within 10 minutes, the fire was out. Overhaul teams fanned out across the floor, prying open cartons and soaking hidden hotspots. Elena stood by the open crate, watching foam seep into the seams. "Cause unknown until daylight," she radioed dispatch. "But we've a good lead. Possible hot sparks from shifting crates." She glanced toward the fence gap, and perhaps an uninvited rodent locksmith to thank. As dawn's first pale rays touched the horizon, Warehouse 47 sat quiet once more, its charred cardboard still faintly steaming, fire crews packing away hoses. Captain Ramirez removed her helmet, hair matted with sweat. She allowed herself a wry smile. Who would have guessed, she mused, looking down the empty loading dock. All thanks to one midnight raccoon and a spark in the dark. And somewhere in the wooded lot beyond the fence, a raccoon nestled in a hollow log, its twitching whiskers greeted by the sunrise, unaware of the havoc and heroism its midnight rummaging had unleashed. While Engine 4's hoses hissed and steamed in the cold dawn air, Captain Elena Ramirez oversaw the overhaul, sifting through sodden debris to ensure no ember survived to flare anew. The warehouse interior, now bathed in pale morning light through high windows, resembled a soggy landscape of collapsed cardboard hills and foam-drenched pallets. Marcus Chen and firefighter Lopez pried open charred cartons, searching for hidden hotspots, while EMT Riley checked air quality, nodding at the residual smoke readings within acceptable limits. At 6:12 a.m., warehouse manager Theo Caldwell arrived, coffee thermos in hand, face drawn with sleep and worry. He stepped carefully over soaked packaging peanuts, surveying the damage. Elena, thank you for the quick response, he said, voice hoarse. This shipment's worth over $500,000. His gaze landed on a cluster of scorched cardboard near the back dock, where a spray of tiny footprints, muddy and distinct, crisscrossed the floor. Dark, slender toes and a stubby palm print suggested a small mammal, not human. Elena crouched beside the prints, examining them with practiced eyes. These aren't boot treads, she observed. They look like raccoon tracks, 5 toes, webbing between them. She traced the prints to a half-open shipping crate, its latch bent outward. And there, damage from inside the crate. Look at these gouges. The metal lip bore crescent-shaped indentations consistent with small, sharp teeth. Theo frowned. A break-in? During the fire? Or before? He pointed to the grate over the loading dock, still hooked ajar. Our security cameras recorded no forced entry, only that minor gap in the fence by the east corner. He flipped open his phone to playback footage, grainy infrared from 1:15 a.m. showing a masked face darting across the dock. But on zoom, it was a raccoon's silhouette, paws high, nose twitching at the crate latch. Elena tapped her radio. Dispatch, send animal control and the crime scene unit. We have non-human suspects. She rose, brushing soot from her gear. Theo, I need your security logs. Any disturbances overnight? Sensor alarms? Anything unusual before the fire call? Theo rummaged through his phone, then handed her a printout. A single door ajar alert at 1:16 a.m., followed by a power surge event from a forklift charging station. I thought it was a glitch, he admitted. I dismissed both. I didn't expect a raccoon to tip a crate and spark a blaze. Outside, Animal Control Officer Mia Ramirez, no relation to the captain, arrived with a small humane cage and trail camera footage on her tablet. She showed the grainy clip. At 1:15 a.m., a raccoon emerged from a dumpster, sniffed the fence gap, and padded across the dock. It climbed onto a stack of crates, then nimbly levered the latch of the flammable goods container. Inside, it rummaged among cardboard rolls, dislodging packaging peanuts. A steel beam shifted, scraping on the floor, and in the friction, a spark. Elena watched in fascination and alarm as Mia narrated. Raccoons can eat through plastic packaging to get food scraps, but here it's the metal on metal that's critical. The crate's rails slid under the animal's weight, creating enough kinetic energy to spark. She turned to Theo. Inspect all metal contacts on your crates. If any other containers have friction points, they're potential fire sources. Meanwhile, Fire Marshal Sanchez arrived to lead the official investigation. He donned gloves and scanned the scene methodically. Soot patterns on the ceiling, burn radii on stacked cartons, witness statements from the crew's radios. When he knelt at the smoking embers, he confirmed Elena's hypothesis. Low temperature, smoldering combustion fueled by cardboard insulation. No accelerants present. By 8 a.m., the The forensic report coalesced. The fire's origin lay inside the unlocked Raccoon Pride crate. A metal latch sliding across the concrete floor had created repeated microsparks until the dry, fibrous packaging ignited. The raccoon's midnight rummaging was both culprit and unintended informant. The very disturbance that set the blaze also revealed the hidden hazard of unsecured, flammable inventory. Theo exhaled, relief and chagrin mingling on his face. Who would have thought a raccoon could unmask our vulnerability and risk everything? He turned to Elena. I'll secure all latches, reinforce the fence, and update my team. And we'll invest in more insulated packaging. No sliding metal. Elena nodded, her gaze drifting to Mia, coaxing the wary raccoon into its crate. Make sure animal control takes it to a wildlife refuge, away from humans. She offered Mia a nod of thanks. And I'll recommend predator-proof locks for the docks in my after-action review. As firefighters rolled up hoses and investigators bagged evidence, the warehouse bathed in early sunlight seemed to exhale, a place once vulnerable, now wiser. From the tiniest midnight scavenger to the bravest fire crew, Willow Creek's night watch had taken an unexpected turn. A raccoon's curiosity had not only sparked a blaze, but also illuminated hidden risks, forging a new alliance between human vigilance and the cunning intelligence of the wild. By mid-morning, Warehouse 47's loading dock had transformed from a smoldering battleground into a hub of activity. Fire crews were packing hoses, investigators were dusting for fingerprints, and logistics staff were shoring up damaged stock. Yet for Captain Elena Ramirez, the most urgent task lay elsewhere, translating last night's unlikely lessons into concrete safeguards. Inside the warehouse office, Elena convened a lessons learned briefing with Theo Caldwell, Fire Marshal Sanchez, and safety engineer Priya Patel. The long table groaned beneath steaming coffee cups and fresh data printouts. Priya tapped a chart showing frequency and cause of warehouse fires in the region, nearly 40% traced to smoldering combustibles, ignited by sparks, friction, or electrical faults. Your raccoon scenario, she said, was novel but not unique. Any movement that generates metal-on-metal contact near flammables poses risk. Elena nodded. We need a multi-layered strategy: physical barriers to wildlife, friction-reducing hardware on crates, and real-time monitoring for unauthorized entry. She switched her laptop to display a shopping list: wildlife-proof fencing with overhangs, spring-loaded crate latches, and a network of motion-activated thermal cameras. Meanwhile, outside on the loading dock, maintenance foreman Luis Ortega walked the perimeter with Animal Control Officer Mia Ramirez. Luis pointed to the fence gap, a bent panel where the raccoon slipped through. We'll replace that section with welded steel mesh and add anti-climb rollers on top. Combined with tightened lighting schedules, it'll deter nocturnal visitors. Mia agreed, already sketching fence modifications on her notepad. Back in the office, Theo frowned at the crate diagrams. Our flammable goods containers all use steel roller rails that can spark, he said. We'll retrofit them with nylon rollers and lubricated tracks. Polymer won't create sparks even under heavy load. Priya added, we should also apply anti-static coatings to cardboard pallets and specify spark-resistant shelving in high-risk areas. Elena turned to Fire Marshal Sanchez. And for detection? She asked. He tapped his tablet to bring up the warehouse's electrical layout. We can integrate heat-sensing cameras in the overhead grid and connect them to your alarm panel. Any rise above, say, 60 degrees Celsius in protected zones triggers an alert, spotting smolders before they flame up. As the team hashed out details, Mia paused at the office door. May I? She asked. On her tablet was footage from last night's trail camera, ultraviolet enhanced to show critter movements in near darkness. She pressed play. A scruffy raccoon emerges from shadow, tests the fence gap, scales a crate, and flips the lid. The clip slowed on the spark, metal rails screeching on concrete. The room fell silent. Elena swallowed. That moment, she said quietly, was our canary in the coal mine. She turned to the group. We owe our safety to that raccoon. Let's honor it by building a system that learns from nature's warnings. By late afternoon, action plans were set. Wildlife exclusion installed 2.5-meter welded mesh fence with outward-facing roller toppers. Seal fence at ground level with concrete footings to block burrowing friction mitigation. Retrofit all flammable goods, roller rails with nylon wheels, and Teflon-coated tracks. Lubricate weekly with non-flammable synthetic oil. Early detection mount thermal cameras at 3-meter intervals above high-risk storage racks. Integrate with central alarm, temperatures above 60 degrees Celsius, or persistent motion after hours. Trigger security, procedural updates. Nightly security sweeps by animal control. Up to 2 a.m. mandatory inspection of crate rails, and fence integrity, weekly emergency drills for small-scale smolder events. Elena rallied her team in a final huddle. "Tonight, I want patrol logs filled out and cameras tested," she commanded. "By week's end, we'll have retrofits in place. Warehouse 47 will be the model for wildlife-aware, hazard-resilient storage." Outside, the setting sun painted the sky in burnt orange. Across the dock, Luis and Mia stood side by side, surveying the fence line. A distant tail slap echoed from the trees, perhaps the raccoon itself, just beyond sight, inspecting the changes. Luis flashed a grin. "Think it approves?" he asked. Mia smiled, eyes soft. "I think it knows we've listened." As dusk deepened, cranes and forklifts hummed and practiced choreography, installing new fence panels and mounting cameras. In the control room, Priya calibrated thermal thresholds while Theo supervised roller top fitting. And everywhere, a shared sense of purpose wove through the team. They were not just protecting property, they were honoring an unexpected partner whose midnight scavenging had revealed hidden perils and sparked a transformation in thinking. That night, as Warehouse 47's updated doors locked behind a final patrol, the building rested secure, and somewhere in the shadowed wood, a raccoon slipped through the reinforced fence, paused at the edge, and tipped its masked head in silent acknowledgement, its rummaging having forged a new alliance between the wild and the watchful. Within days, Warehouse 47's perimeter had transformed into a nearly impenetrable bulwark against nocturnal intruders. Maintenance crews installed 2.5-meter welded mesh fencing, its top adorned with outward-facing roller bars, spinning freely to foil any climbing attempts. Concrete footings sealed the base, preventing burrowing, and solar-powered LED floodlights, equipped with motion-activated sensors, illuminated every shadowed corner of the dock. Late one evening, Fire Captain Elena Ramirez returned for a compliance check. Pausing beneath the bristling fence, she watched as a shaft of light swept the yard. The scene felt different now. The yawning gap where the raccoon once slipped through was replaced by solid steel mesh. The rusted crate rails shimmered under Teflon coating, their polymer rollers silent and slick. Elena climbed onto the loaded dock with Animal Control Officer Mia Ramirez. They moved between newly mounted security cameras, thermal eyes that scanned aisles of stacked cartons for early heat signatures. "Test 1, Mia called, swiping a small flame-resistant tag across a rack. The camera's reticle locked onto the tag's slowly rising temperature, triggering a soft amber light on the control panel inside. Inside the operations room, safety engineer Priya Patel watched the live feed alongside warehouse manager Theo Caldwell and Fire Marshal Sanchez. Priya pointed at the screen. "Temperature is now 45 degrees Celsius, below our 60 degrees Celsius threshold. No alarm, but once it hits 60, we'll get an instant alert, audible and visual." She tapped the display to simulate a heat spike. Sirens murmured and a red warning flashed. "Zone 3 overheat. Investigate immediately." Satisfied, Elena led the team on a final walkthrough. They tested each component. Roller top fencing. Jedi-like in its simplicity, the rollers spun beneath Elena's gloved hand, refusing her grip. She tapped the fence, nodding. "No raccoon scramble here." Nylon roller rails. They slid a loaded pallet along the renovated rails. The movement was ghost quiet, wheels gliding over the Teflon-coated tracks with zero friction sparks. "Zero contact noise," Theo marveled. Thermal camera and alarm. In the shadowed back corner, once the fire's origin, they placed a small heat pack on a crate. Within seconds, the camera triggered a clear alarm. Heat detected on every console. Fire Marshal Sanchez tested the radio link. Dispatch response team. Possible smolder. Motion-activated lighting. Elena crouched beside the fence, beating a branch against the mesh. Floodlights blazed to life in a brilliant tide, shadows recoiling. Excellent coverage, she said. Before leaving, Mia paused at the south dock's sealed gap. She coaxed a small raccoon, carefully trapped during the day, into a release cage. With a final pat, she opened the door. The raccoon hesitated, quivered its whiskers, then scurried away into the dark woods, its territory now rendered inhospitable after hours. As dawn approached, Warehouse 47's staff gathered for a sign-off ceremony. Theo presented Elena with a framed schematic of the new security and fire prevention systems, each measure annotated with the Midnight Raccoon's contributions. From tail slaps to sensor taps, he said, you've led us through an unprecedented evolution in safety. Elena accepted the gift, her gaze sweeping the fortified dock and silent warehouse interior. This alliance, between wildlife insight and human innovation, sets a new standard. Let's ensure no spark, no rodent, and no oversight ever threatens this place again. As the morning shift arrived to unbar doors and resume operations, Warehouse 47 stood secure, a testament to the power of preventative partnership, born from one raccoon's midnight rummaging, now safeguarded by layers of engineering, wildlife wisdom, and unwavering vigilance. 3 weeks after the raccoon-triggered overhaul, Warehouse 47 had become the regional exemplar for integrated safety. Early one Saturday morning, Fire Captain Elena Ramirez convened a community safety day in the lot beside the loading dock. Long rows of safety demonstration booths lined the pavement, from motion sensor lighting displays to thermal camera kiosks and hands-on crate rail retrofit stations. Local business owners, residents, and schoolchildren milled among the exhibits. At Elena's booth, a large banner reading, "Alert from the Wild, Learning from Nature." She demonstrated a portable ultrasonic sensor tuned to raccoon foraging frequencies. When volunteers waved gloved hands near the microphone, it emitted the distinctive chuff that mirrored the raccoon's metal rail rustle. This, Elena explained, helped us pinpoint the spark zone last month. She encouraged kids to listen through headphones, their eyes widening as they heard nature's own alarm code. Across the lot, warehouse manager Theo Caldwell and safety engineer Priya Patel led crate retrofit workshops. Attendees slid heavy pallets along original steel rails, wood on steel, observing sparks fly, then repeated the exercise on nylon roller tracks, noting the whisper-quiet glide. Friction sparks are invisible fire starters, Priya lectured. Swap your hardware, save your warehouse. Nearby, Animal Control Officer Mia Ramirez supervised a critter control circuit for families. Kids navigated a mini fence maze, learning to spot weaknesses, loose boards, bent posts, and gaps at ground level. Mia handed out pamphlets on wildlife-friendly fencing designs, stressing coexistence rather than eradication. We don't vilify the raccoon, she reminded the group. We learn from it. Midday, the local news van arrived, broadcasting live from the site. Culinary students from the nearby community college served coffee and donuts to firefighters demonstrating appliance foam extinguishers and emergency protocols. Partnership plaques adorned the office door. County Fire Department, Animal Control, Warehouse 47, and the Raccoon Task Force, symbolizing the alliance that had grown from one small spark. In a corner of the event, a lessons learned panel discussion gathered regional safety officers. Elena moderated. How do we embed this philosophy of preventive partnership in every warehouse, every factory, every community? Deputy Fire Marshal Sanchez spoke of updated building codes requiring wildlife proofing in rural facilities. A representative from the Chamber of Commerce pledged to underwrite similar retrofits for small businesses. As the event closed, Elena led a ceremonial ribbon cutting at the refurbished fence gate, flanked by Mia and Theo. With a collective tug, the ribbon fell, unfurling a sign painted with a raccoon's silhouette and the words, "Welcome, watchful partners. The crowd cheered, children patted the fence rollers, and the morning sun glinted off the newly installed LED floodlights. Later that evening, as the last vendors packed up, Elena and Mia walked the now quiet dock. The thermal cameras blinked standby. The grate yawned clear. The crate rails gleamed with their friction-resistant sheen. Mia paused at the fence line, scanning the tree line beyond. I wonder if our masked friend will peek back tonight, she mused. Elena smiled. I wouldn't be surprised. She tucked her radio into its holster. Because here, we're listening to beaver tail slaps, elk bugles, and raccoon rustles alike. And thanks to one curious raccoon, our community learned that every creature's alarm can steer us toward greater safety. Under a lavender dusk sky, Warehouse 47 stood sentinel to its own story, a tale of sparks, of swift response, of engineering and empathy, and of a community empowered by the wisdom of the wild. And somewhere in the moonlit woods, the raccoon paused, ears perked, assured that its midnight rummaging had ignited something far brighter than flames, a movement toward shared vigilance and resilient partnership. Weeks after Community Safety Day, Warehouse 47's operations hummed with new confidence and new routines. At first light, Fire Captain Elena Ramirez and Animal Control Officer Mia Ramirez met in the dock office for their daily wildlife and safety check-in. Whiteboards displayed yesterday's overnight data: 0 unauthorized entries, 3 motion-triggered light activations, all attributed to wind-blown debris, and 4 thermal camera alerts, routine forklift operation. Elena tapped a chart of monthly maintenance tasks. Grate cleanings logged every Monday, fence integrity inspections every Wednesday, and roller latch lubrication Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our retrofits are working, she said, reviewing the uptime percentage, over 99% system availability. But the real triumph is cultural. Staff now scan the fence line, check crate rails, and treat the raccoon alerts as gold. Mia nodded, pulling up the wildlife monitoring dashboard on her tablet. A timeline of nocturnal tail slaps, recorded by ground microphones at the fence's base, showed regular raccoon visits between 2,300 and 200 hours. They're still out there, she smiled. We've had 0 breach attempts. She swiped to the motion camera logs. Each night's raccoon silhouette captured in crisp infrared, approaching then pivoting away from the fortified fence. They've learned their limits. Later, Elena led a walkthrough with logistics manager Javier Cruz and junior safety engineer Priya Patel. Javier demonstrated the new crate rail check. Staff press a roll test button on each shelf, watching a small LED panel confirm rail smoothness and absence of friction spikes. Priya monitored the wireless sensor net. Strain gauges on critical beams showed minimal vibration during pallet movements. Another win for the polymer rollers. At the far dock, Mia guided Javier through the emergency drill, detecting a tail slap event by the raccoon frequency ultrasonic sensor, then initiating a security pause protocol. Siren sound, gates lock, and an automated message instructs staff to secure open flames and await inspection. Javier triggered the sensor with a handheld sniffer device, calibrated to 4 kilohertz tail slap pulses. The system responded instantly with a soft alert and log entry. Seamless, Javier said, impressed. Meanwhile, in the control room, Priya reviewed a quarterly performance report sent to regional safety authorities. Key metrics flashed in green. System uptime, 99.3%, 0 fire incidents. Wildlife alerts, correctly classified at 98.7% accuracy. The executive summary noted that a single raccoon's break-in last month had catalyzed a complete overhaul, one that now served as a model for wildlife-aware hazard prevention across the district. As midday sun slanted through skylights, the warehouse crew gathered for a brief safety huddle. Elena addressed them over the PA. Remember, vigilance is our shared duty, from forklift operators checking crate rails to patrols scanning the fence line. Our 4-legged sentinels may signal first, but it's our timely response that keeps us safe. She paused, scanning familiar faces. Thank you for making these practices part of your daily work. That evening, after the last loading bay door shut, Mia released a rescued raccoon near the adjacent woodlot, outside the exclusion zone but within its home range. The animal paused at the forest edge, whiskers twitching as if in farewell, then slipped into the moonlit trees. Mia watched until its dark silhouette vanished into the night. Alone on the dock, Elena closed down the security console and surveyed the fence line. Beneath the motion-activated floodlights, no shadows moved, yet she felt the presence of unseen watchers. The raccoon that had sparked change, the cameras and sensors now trained on its familiar path, and the human vigilance woven into every bolt, rail, and grate. In that quiet moment, she understood that safety wasn't a one-time fix, but a living practice, a partnership sustained by routine checks, adaptive technology, and respect for nature's own alarms. And as she locked the final gate and headed home, the warehouse slept secure under a watchful sky, its defenses strong, its people alert, and its community forever shaped by a raccoon's midnight rummaging. Winter's first hush settled over Warehouse 47 as frost glazed the concrete apron and crystalline breath rose from idle forklifts. Inside the operations office, sunlight glinted off framed schematics of the upgraded security system. Every fence roller, polymer rail retrofit, and thermal camera map meticulously documented. But at the heart of the display was a single, unassuming photograph. The raccoon that had pried open the flammable goods crate, its curious eyes caught an infrared glow. Captain Elena Ramirez stood before the wall of acclaim. Letters of commendation from county officials, plaques from the Chamber of Commerce, and certificates from the state fire marshal. Yet her gaze drifted back to that photo. It all began with one midnight rummage, she mused aloud, to Animal Control Officer Mia Ramirez, who had joined her for a final walkthrough before the holiday shutdown. They walked the perimeter together, boots crunching on frost-brittle gravel. Motion-activated floodlights blinked on as Mia's keycard swept near a fence post. "Silent sentries," Mia whispered, pointing to the roller-topped fencing. Beyond, the woods lay dark, home to the cunning raccoons whose nightly patrols now ended at an impermeable barrier. Inside the dock, forklift operators performed their end-of-day roll tests, each pallet sliding without a spark. The whir of nylon wheels, a testament to the retrofit's success. Priya Patel's digital dashboard displayed a week's worth of all-clear indicators. 0 unauthorized motions, no thermal anomalies, and only routine wildlife checks triggered by tail slaps and squeaks. The system hummed with reliable precision. Elena paused by the grate covering the culvert below the loading bay. "Never thought we'd need one here," she remarked, recalling the original smoldering blaze that had begun with sliding metal on concrete. Mia nodded. "But it's become part of our daily landscape. Crew members schedule grate cleanings like clockwork, and they know to watch for wildlife signs." They passed into the break room, where staff relaxed over hot chocolate under a banner reading, "Happy Holidays from your watchful partners." Warehouse manager Theo Caldwell greeted them with a grin. "We're sending a crate of insulated gloves and flashlights to Animal Control. Our thanks for the rescue raccoon." He raised his mug in toast. Beyond the laughter, Elena felt the deeper impact. A culture of listening had taken root, bridging the gap between human systems and natural intelligence. She recalled Community Safety Day, when children learned raccoon rustle frequencies, and the day the raccoon returned once for a cautious inspection of its old playground. It had paused at the fence's edge, ears twitching, then slipped away with a parting tail slap, as if acknowledging the new order. Outside, as dusk gathered, Mia led a small group of volunteers to release rehabilitated wildlife, raccoons, opossums, and even one curious skunk, into adjacent woodlots. Each animal carried a lightweight radio tag to monitor movements, ensuring their safety outside the exclusion zone. "Partnership," Mia said, "means giving back to the wild." Elena watched the raccoon vanish among pines, then turned to Mia. "What's next?" she asked. Mia smiled. "Sharing our blueprint. We're hosting a regional workshop next month, inviting warehouses, grain elevators, and loading docks across the valley to adopt these measures." She tapped her tablet, Already 15 sites registered. Elena nodded, pride warming her. From one raccoon's curiosity to a network of wildlife-aware safety champions, we've learned that alarms can come from any source, and that the smallest signals may carry the greatest warnings. As they locked the office for the night, the warehouse fell silent, but for a distant rustle of prairie grass in the cold breeze. The floodlights dimmed to standby, and the thermal camera's lenses turned inward, resting beneath their protective covers. Elena took one last look at the raccoon photograph, image now framed by the surrounding accolades. She whispered to the empty space, "Thank you, little sentinel." In that quiet exchange, she affirmed the enduring truth at the heart of Warehouse 47's transformation. Vigilance is a living partnership, one built on respect, readiness, and an unwavering willingness to listen to the wild. And somewhere in the starry woods beyond, a raccoon paused on its nocturnal prowling, ears tuned to the faint hum of safe, secure systems, confident that its midnight alarm had left a legacy of safety that would echo through many seasons to come.